The power you've been searching for was never about control. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Alison Godbolt, a visionary leader whose work is transforming how we think about power, control, and what it truly means to thrive in a world that constantly demands we prove our worth. Alison is not just making waves, she's creating tsunamis of change, helping high achieving black women and honestly, all of us understand that the power we've been chasing has been within us all along. Her insights are reshaping communities, redefining success, and reminding us that self mastery, not domination, is the real revolution. She's building a world where vulnerability is valued, where authenticity is armor, and where women lead from a place of wholeness rather than woundedness. So let's dive in. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. We've been sold a lie, a big, shiny, glittering lie, that if we just work hard enough, hustle long enough, control every variable, manage every outcome, and dominate every circumstance, we'll finally have the life we want. We'll finally be safe. We'll finally be enough. But what happens when the job disappears? What happens when the title gets stripped away? What happens when the very systems we trusted to reward our excellence decide we're expendable? What happens when the cape you've been wearing for decades becomes so heavy you can barely stand? In 2025, over 350,000 Black women were laid off from the US workforce. Let that sink in. 350,000. Many of them were leaders, directors, diversity and inclusion professionals, women who had climbed the ladder, shattered glass ceilings, and held the door open for others. Women who believed that if they just worked harder, stayed longer, proved themselves more, they would finally be secure. And in one swift, brutal wave, they were told their services were no longer needed. Alison Godbolt shared with me the stories of these women. And what struck me most wasn't just the pain of loss, it was the awakening that followed. Because when you lose the thing you thought defined you, when the control you believed you had evaporates, you're left with a choice: crumble or transform. And these women, they chose transformation. Let me tell you about one of them. Her name is Fajani Cadet. Fajani was a director of diversity and inclusion, living what many would call the dream: stable career, respected title, making a difference. She was the woman other women looked up to. She was proof that hard work pays off. She was the success story. And then in April 2025, she got the call, laid off, just like that. The anxiety hit hard. The financial instability felt suffocating. The loss of professional identity was disorienting. Everything she had built, everything she had sacrificed for, everything she thought she controlled, gone. But here's where Allison's wisdom comes in. Here's where the story shifts from tragedy to triumph. Fajani didn't try to control what she couldn't control. She didn't scramble to force a new door open or cling to the old identity. She didn't put on a brave face and pretend everything was fine. Instead, she did something radical. She embraced vulnerability. She leaned into self accountability. She built a supportive network. She redefined her own narrative. And you know what happened? Fajani transitioned into entrepreneurship and advocacy. She became a catalyst for others. She became a community leader. She launched a business. She mentored women through similar transitions. She normalized vulnerability and self accountability as strengths in the Black professional community. She turned her pain into purpose, her loss into legacy. Fajani didn't gain power by controlling her circumstances. She gained power by mastering herself. Now, Alison Godbolt's main argument, and this is where it gets disruptive, is that true control over one's life is not about dominating circumstances or other people, but about practicing self mastery, accountability, and embracing the guidance of a higher creator. Many of us believe that if we just work hard enough or seize every opportunity, we can control our destiny. But that ignores the deeper truth that we are not the sole architects of our lives. Instead, by accepting our limitations and focusing on self discipline, transparency, and accountability, we gain the power to shape our narrative in partnership with the Creator rather than through sheer force of will. Let me say that again for the sisters in the back who are still carrying capes they never asked for. You don't have to control everything to change your narrative. You just have to start by changing yourself. This is the first lesson Allison wants us to take away. Self mastery is the real power. Control begins with the willingness to do the inner work, practicing patience, self reflection, and accountability, rather than trying to control external events or other people. Think about it. How much energy have you spent trying to manage what other people think of you? How many sleepless nights have you had worrying about outcomes you can't control? How many times have you exhausted yourself trying to be perfect, trying to prove you belong, trying to earn a seat at a table that was never built for you in the first place? Self mastery says, I'm going to focus on what I can control: my thoughts, my actions, my boundaries, my peace, my growth, my healing. And here's the beautiful part: when you stop trying to control everything around you and start mastering what's within you, you actually become more powerful. Because now you're operating from a place of groundedness, not desperation, from clarity, not chaos, from purpose, not pressure. The data backs this up in ways that should make us all sit up and pay attention. After those 350,000 layoffs, something extraordinary happened. Black women didn't just sit around waiting for someone to rescue them. They didn't wait for corporate America to realize their mistake. They didn't beg for their job back. They built their own tables. Black women led startups increased dramatically. Some of these women reported a 7% average pay bump after switching careers or starting businesses. 7%. New platforms and philanthropic efforts emerged. They created new businesses, increased community engagement, and redefined professional and personal success. The economic downturn and retreat from DEI initiatives left many feeling powerless, but it also sparked a movement to reclaim agency through self mastery and collective action. These women inspired a generation to build their own tables and redefine what it means to thrive, centering self mastery and accountability over external control. This wasn't just about making money, this was about making meaning. This was about refusing to let someone else's decision about their worth become their truth. This was about saying, if you won't value me, I'll value myself. If you won't create space for me, I'll create my own space. If you won't give me a seat, I'll build my own table and invite everyone who's been left standing. The second lesson Allison shared with me is this: transparency and vulnerability are strengths. By showing up authentically, flaws and all, you reclaim your narrative and set the foundation for meaningful change in your life and community. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but LeAnne, if I show my flaws, people will think I'm weak. If I admit I'm struggling, I'll lose respect. If I let them see me cry, they'll never take me seriously again. But here's what Allison and the stories of these 350,000 Black women are teaching us. When you show up authentically, you give others permission to do the same. When you stop pretending you have it all together, you create space for real connection, real support, real transformation. Fajani Cadet didn't hide her anxiety or her fear. She didn't post perfectly curated updates on social media pretending everything was fine. She shared it, she was honest, she was real. And in doing so, she became a beacon for others who were silently drowning in the same waters. She turned her vulnerability into a bridge. And that's what softness is, isn't it? It's not weakness. It's the courage to be real in a world that rewards the mask. It's the strength to say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to heal. I'm willing to let you see me as I am, not as I think you need me to be. When these women lost their jobs, they could have hidden, they could have isolated, they could have pretended everything was fine until they figured it out. But instead, they gathered, they shared, they supported, they built networks rooted in honesty and mutual aid. They created spaces where it was safe to say, I'm scared. I don't know what's next. I need help. And in those spaces, magic happened, resources were shared, opportunities were created, businesses were launched, lives were transformed, all because someone had the courage to be vulnerable first. The third lesson Allison wants us to walk away with is this: redefine success on your own terms, rooted in purpose and faith, and especially for Black professionals facing systemic setbacks. Fulfillment comes not from external validation, but from building supportive networks, pivoting in the face of adversity, and trusting in a higher purpose. This is where the soft girl era and Alison Godbolt's message converge beautifully. Because what is the soft girl era if not a radical redefinition of success? It's saying, I'm not going to measure my worth by how much I produce. I'm not going to let corporate America or patriarchy or white supremacy or even my own family's expectations define what success looks like for me. Success is waking up with peace. Success is having the courage to say no. Success is building a life that feels good on the inside, not just impressive on the outside. Success is rest without guilt. Success is joy without apology. Success is softness without shame. My mama used to say that no man was good enough for her girls. She survived against all odds, born to circumstances that should have ended her life before it began. Yet she stayed here long enough to raise me and my sisters, to teach us that we are worthy, that we deserve more than survival. She's been gone almost 30 years now, but her voice still guides me. She taught me that grace isn't just something you receive, it's something you walk in. And walking in grace means refusing to accept less than what the Creator has for you. She didn't know she was teaching me about self mastery. She didn't know she was modeling what it means to redefine success on your own terms. But she was. Every day she chose to keep going, every boundary she set, every time she told us we were worth more than the world was offering, she was showing us the path. And now I see that same spirit in the women Allison works with, that same refusal to settle, that same determination to build something better, that same faith that there's a purpose bigger than the pain. Now, Allison asked a powerful question during our conversation. What would happen if more people or organizations adopted this idea or perspective? If more people and organizations embraced the idea that true empowerment comes from self mastery, transparency, and faith, rather than the illusion of total control, we would see workplaces and communities that are more resilient, collaborative, and purpose driven. Leaders would focus on accountability and authenticity, creating environments where vulnerability is seen as strength and collective progress is prioritized over individual dominance. This shift would foster deeper trust, innovation, and long term success, especially for marginalized groups who have historically been denied traditional forms of control. Imagine a world where your boss valued your well being as much as your productivity. Imagine a workplace where saying, I need a mental health day was met with support, not suspicion. Imagine a community where women weren't competing for crumbs, but collaborating to bake a whole new pie. That's the world Alison Godbolt is helping us build. That's the world these 350,000 Black women are creating. And that's the world you can be part of starting right. Because here's the truth: the power you've been searching for was never about control, it was always about surrender. Surrender to the process, surrender to the creator, surrender to the truth that you are enough right now, exactly as you are. You don't need another degree. You don't need another promotion. You don't need another person's approval. You need to come home to yourself. You need to practice self mastery. You need to embrace your softness. You need to trust that the life you're building, rooted in purpose and faith, is more powerful than any title or paycheck could ever be. So here's my challenge to you: not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Take one bold step towards self mastery today. Maybe that means finally having the conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it means saying no to the commitment that's draining you. Maybe it means forgiving yourself for the mistake you've been carrying for years. Maybe it means admitting you need help. Uh, Maybe it means resting, truly resting, without the guilt. Whatever it is, do it. Because every time you choose self mastery over control, every time you choose vulnerability over perfection, every time you choose purpose over pressure, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the narrative for every woman watching you. You're giving permission to every sister who's still wearing a cape she never asked for. You're building the world we all deserve to live in. The women who lost their jobs in 2025 didn't wait for permission to rebuild. They didn't wait for someone to tell them they were worthy. They didn't wait for the system to change. They changed themselves. And in doing so, they changed everything. You have that same power. You've always had it. It was never in the job title, it was never in the bank account, it was never in someone else's validation. It was always in you. So release the cape, redefine strength, embrace softness, heal in real time. Protect your peace as a practice. Turn your survival into something sacred. This is your permission slip. This is your invitation. The Soft Girl Era isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you're already part of it. Welcome home. Welcome to the power that was always yours.